One of the topics that we're going to cover today is virtual assistants. You may have heard a lot about virtual assistants. There's a lot of people that may not be doing or may be doing the process improperly when hiring or looking for a virtual assistant. We're going to be talking about what to expect, how to hire, how to train, SOPs, and just what kind of tasks do you need when hiring a VA, a virtual assistant. So I brought on stage today my virtual assistant, my senior. We have multiple people in our organization, but Vandana. So how are you?
I am good. Hello, everyone.
I guess where do we start? First of all, why is a virtual assistant important? And probably all of us on this call are entrepreneurs or trying to become an entrepreneur. And there's something called the entrepreneurial or sales roller coaster. And that's when you have passion about your product, all of a sudden it takes off, you have multiple sales, you're working 25 hours a day, you need somebody to help you out. However, when you go and hire that person, you don't have the time or, well, it's all about time. Sometimes it's about money, sometimes it's about resources, but it's usually about time to train the person. So things collapse and they collapse very quickly. People scream and yell, say that the VA couldn't do their job properly because they weren't trained. And then they go and they take it all back because they're the only person that can do it right. And they go into that same vicious cycle. So this is all I learned about this through from Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth Academy, which is a great book, or the E-Myth Revisited. The E-Myth Academy is a program that he has. Anyways, one of the first things that you need to know when you are looking for a VA is really how are you going to train them? And what do you do? Like, how do you find them? So, Vandana, I'm kind
Mm-hmm.
of curious about this because I'm not the first person that you've worked with, but
Yeah.
or getting to understand that person that's hiring you that doesn't have all that much time. What would you suggest they do?
First of all, I think it's important that before hiring, you have to put together the job description so that you and the person you're trying to hire are very clear about the terms and conditions and the work that is expected from that person. So I think that plays a very important role. After that, it's important to work with SOPs, so with standard operating procedures alongside the work. It's very important. So you know that this has to be done. It has to be done in this way. It may take this time. This has to be the follow-up time. Everything that you need that has to be done has to be written in SOP. So I think that's the first and most important part to keep the things intact or the way you want them to be.
Right. And I guess one of the most important things right now is if you are overworked, I mean, you're working 25 hours a week, how do you get that first SOP done? Where, like, how do you even hire somebody? So there are services out there that you can go to. There's services like Multiply Me, and that me at the end is MI.
Mm-hmm.
There's freeup.net. There's onlinejobs.ph. There's a ton of them out there. And some of them have the ability to have a recruiting aspect, so you pay a little bit more and people will vet them, or you just find them on your own. So onlinejobs.ph have both. FreeUp is a vetted service. Multiply Me is a vetted service. You pay a bit more for it, but they go through that job description that Vandana was talking about, and they meticulously, at least I know this for a fact, I've used Multiply Me and FreeUp, that they go through and they vet people on exactly what you're looking for. Then you have the opportunity to interview their shortlist, and you can see how your personalities are, working together. The type of task. So you finally figure out this is the person you can work with. What time zone? So you want to make sure that if you need to talk to them on Eastern Standard Time, that they're available. If they don't have to, if you just need it in the morning or at night, that's another opportunity. Now, for Vandana and I, Vandana was in Poland,
Mm-hmm.
now he's in India, and we just work together Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, so she goes to bed early in the morning, but she gets up late, very, very late. Right, Vandana? But
That's like to cope up with the work time.
it is definitely something that we have to work on, though, because it's, I mean, communication is one thing, but you have to manage those expectations. And those expectations have to be upfront. So the hard questions, you have to look at it. And some of the, I asked you for this. So when we first had our first interview, um,
Mm-hmm.
we had a video interview. You don't have to do that, but we just had I think it was on Zoom. I
Yeah,
asked
it was
you,
on Zoom.
yeah, I asked you to provide me with a few things: a screenshot of your phone, a screenshot of your
Mhm.
internet connection, and what was the speed of your computer. You remember that?
Right, right. So we were on the Zoom call. So we actually, it was like, assigned to me that you have to be ready with this stuff. You have to be ready with this document, and we'll check everything. Only then we'll talk further. So yeah, I was ready with those stuff.
Right. And one of the things that we looked at, so let's say that you have, and I'm just going to throw out a figure. Let's say you're hiring somebody for $10 an hour. We'll use 10 because it's easy for me to figure out. If a person
Mhm.
has a slow internet connection and they have a slow processor in their computer, you're probably paying
Mhm.
$30 an hour because they just can't have the output that you'd need. So once we got once the company got Vandana up and going, we noticed that her computer was running slow, and we agreed to purchase a computer. So you have
Yeah.
a better computer. It's a Mac computer that we can at least communicate back and forth. So some people are afraid to spend money, and it's so important that if you don't have, even with internet, I know in the Philippines, a lot of the times there's problems with internet connection. So we'll pay for that upgrade to get them into, like, whoever you're working with, from regular internet to 50 megabytes per second or 100 megabytes per second, because we do a lot of graphic and video work. So these are some key things that you need to do and need to see during that initial interview. And if you want to, like, during the training process, a month or two go by to make sure that there's a gel, then you should go out, take a look, get a refurbished computer, if you can't afford a new computer, and provide that, so so your VA can do their work with they're set up with the proper tools to succeed. And if you don't do that,
Right.
you're just going to be screaming and yelling. So also, let's talk
Yeah.
a bit about SOPs. This is oh, I bet you won't even like to tell what I do, but um, at the end of the day, I'll put together a whole bunch of videos usually. And when Vandana wakes up in the morning, she has all these Loom videos. So we work with an app called Loom. We can record, we can highlight. I also use Snagit if it's just to take screenshots. And then I provide that overnight. She wakes up in the morning and she can see what I'm looking for. And this is how we can communicate and get things going. If there's a new task, if there's a task that's a repetitive task that Vandana's never done before, the video is used usually to create a policy and procedure or an SOP. So you want to talk about the videos and creating an SOP, and what does that SOP look like?
Sure. So basically, I am this person. I have created a lot of SOPs already, but that's something that keeps going on. It's not something that it's once done and it's finished. So for everything, every single work or task that we do in our organization has to compulsorily have an SOP on that. And there are different steps for those SOPs, and it's important that we follow those steps. So we also have an SOP on how to write an SOP. So that's how we like to be specific about things that we do. So to start with, there are a lot of things which from which we look for, or it has to be, first of all, the thing that is that SOP has to be written by a person who does that. So on the first place, if there's some task that is done by this particular person, we would reach out to that person and give them that, you have to write this SOP by step on how you do it. And it starts with purpose. So the first thing that we put in SOP is purpose, and it has to be. It's not just a one liner or something. It has to be properly explained that what is the purpose of writing this SOP, and we work on this single motive. It's not that whoever is looking at this SOP just has to follow the tab and just finish the task. No, the idea is that the person should know each and everything about why it is done, how it is done. After you finish this task, whom do you have to report, when do you have to follow up, what else you should also know along with this thing when you've been doing this. So I'll go one by one with the steps or with the things that are included within the SOPs that we write. So we start from purpose. The second thing is introduction.
So
It
the
has a detailed,
sorry,
yeah.
Van, the purpose. Why is that so
hmm
important for you, or when you're training? So you have to remember, we don't have one VA. We have multiple VAs that have specialties in different areas. So why is purpose so important to you or for the other VAs?
So basically, purpose is to inform that person that why are you doing this. It's not just this word is being told to you. You search for this word and find the SOP and just do it. You should know that how it helps. So in future, if a person has to say, person doesn't has to give you this exact word. If I say you like go and do something with the advertisement, you know that these are the specifics. These are the things that you do for that. So it's not just, the name of the SOP. It also has to be the detailed information that why are you doing this? In future, you know when you have to do this.
Right. Okay, next.
Next is introduction. So it's like about the topic. This is about whatever the topic of the SOP is. In introduction, we explain that in details. We break those words, we put it in a simple language, and it has to be a very simple language, not even a single difficult word in that SOP that a person should not understand or might not know. So that's what introduction looks like to us, and that also plays a very important role apart from purpose, because that's how you understand the whole idea of this particular topic, that where is it taking you, right?
Right.
Okay, so after that, the third point is requirements. So before you even start looking at the steps or anything, we put down all the things that is required to finish this. So you make sure that you have all this before going through the rest of the steps. So each and every single thing that you required to do this particular task is mentioned here,
All right, next.
right, ma'am? Okay, so the fourth point is important words or definitions. So if there are any words or short forms that we have used in the SOP, we actually put the full form of that word or explain that word in this fourth part. So every short form, like if we are writing about FBA, so we explain it in there, even though it is a very common term and people might know about that. We make sure that we explain each and every word so that anybody looking at it might not get confused, and at any point of time they want an explanation for a word, they come back and look at this section and know what it is about.
Okay. And
So yeah. So then we start with the procedure, right? So then we go step by step with like procedure one, procedure two. So step by step with each and everything that has to be done. And we, put it in a very simple way, and also, word to word everything. It's not like, just do it. No, it's like click here, go to this option, come back, click here, like that. And we also make sure that we put the screenshots of all the steps that we are doing. So we take a screenshot of each step and we highlight whatever has to be, done, or wherever it has to be clicked, or what pages you have to select that day. So we highlight that so person looking at the SOP may read and see what has to be done. So it becomes easier, right? So
Then it's the reporting. That's the final step, correct?
Right. Then once you finish all the steps, then comes the reporting.
Okay. So once you have all of this, people can have a clear insight to exactly how to do it. But here's the catch. Now you have to move on to,
Hmm.
and when we train, usually, like if I'm talking to Vandana and I want to show her a new something that we're doing, I'll usually have a video call. We'll kind of go through it. I'll go through the process. Let's say if I'm responding to an Amazon message or feedback. All right, this is how we're doing it. This is the templates that we're using. So here's some canned responses. So they're all stored in one area. I'll run through it. And if there's any questions, we'll take it, of course. Then Vandana's, she will go and do this on her own. Now, this is key.
Right.
If there is a mistake, they happen. And usually it's on the person who wrote the SOP because there could be a difference in the interface or in the app. But what you want to do is, like for us, it's kind of like, I hate saying three strikes, but it's all educational. Nobody gets upset. I don't
Yeah.
care. Nobody gets upset when there's a mistake. We go back. I asked Vandana, okay, how do we fix this? Because I don't want to be that person, saying, oh, here's the answer. I want Vandana to go check out what the answer is. And if I'm thinking a little different, I'll give my opinion and then we fix it. If it happens a second time, we have to figure out why that is. Maybe it's a training thing again, maybe it's a revision, but we have to try to figure that one out. And the same thing, Vandana would come back with how to fix it. On the third time, it's probably obvious for that particular task that they're not suited for it, and I would probably assign it to somebody else because they're not. I always like VAs working on their strengths, which brings me to another point.
Yeah.
When people hire VAs, there's a tendency to think that a contractor, a freelancer, a VA is an expert in everything. They're not. Vandana,
Yeah.
specific specific talents, and strengths, and I want to focus on those. I don't want to focus on our weak spots. If I went and asked Vandana to go and put a whole Google Ads campaign together, or work with Google My Business or Google Profile now, anyways, that's probably not the best time spent or money spent. But if I asked her about most like Amazon listings, how to optimize it, how to do keyword research, she'd kill it. But that's proper training. I have seen
Yeah.
terrible mistakes, and I don't think you've ever been with or worked with anybody like this, but I have seen people who have not managed the expectations between them and the contractor, and they unload on them. They scream, they yell, they insult. Uh, that's not going to get you anywhere. By losing your temper at somebody who's trying to help you out, um, all that's going to do is hold back any type of, or they'll be more reserved to giving any suggestions because they'd be afraid of speaking up. Like Vandana, you tell
Yeah.
me all the time how I'm doing things wrong. So
So basically, for this particular thing, I follow the straight rule. It's like problems are going to come. There will be every now and then some problem, some issue that has to be resolved. But that's not how you look into it. You have to come back with a solution. You just don't have to come and say, okay, listen, there's a problem. No, you have to come and say, see, there's a problem. I'm working on it. Let me find a solution and get back to you. Or this is the solution. Let's do this. So that comes with obviously proper training, proper information, refreshing your whole knowledge or your information that you had about a particular thing, because obviously like things don't remain intact or same, they keep changing. You have to keep revising, you have to keep doing revisions on the things that you are doing. But I think that's the way out. When
right.
there is a problem, come with a solution.
And I'm not saying that we're living in a butterfly and unicorn world. We vent.
Yeah.
Vandana will vent. I will vent. but we always respect each other, and there's never, a time where we have to worry about really screaming and yelling and just disrespecting each other. The other thing that's
Yeah.
very important. I've gone to so many. I've probably gone to hundreds of events. I've heard this topic a million times, and I cringe when I hear people say this. Well, you can negotiate with the VA. When they want $3 an hour, try to get them down to $2.50, or people bragging that they're only paying $200 a month for a VA. But they'll also say in the same breath that the VA that they've hired, you have to be careful because the VA that I hired had all these emergencies, family emergencies. Well, guess what, buddy? The reason why is the they've probably been on Upwork. They've probably found somebody who's going to pay them 10 cents or 15 cents more. And yes, they had a family emergency, which really wasn't. It was a virtual family emergency, and they got paid a bit more. This is something that I hate hearing. I think to build, if this is going to be long term, you need to have somebody that, at least on the VA side, that they can feel that you've got security there. So if I'm working with somebody in the Philippines or somebody in India, they've got a family to support. And if I try to screw them around or try to get them so they can barely, eat at the end of the week, what does that say? So we always, and I'm not saying, hey, we're the best, but what I try to do is I try to figure out the country, what the average pay would be for that job, and pay a lot more. And I do that so people can go to bed at night, take care, buy groceries, not have to worry about, the next day's pay. So, and I give a set of hours. And a lot of the times, if I can hire full time, even though I might need 30 hours a week or 20 hours, I'll hire for a 40-hour a week because it is less expensive. And one of the other things that we do, Vandana loves this, but we training. So if any of our VAs want to learn other areas of the business, social media, Facebook, Google, like Google business profile, anything, we'll
Yeah.
pay for 100% of the training because that's only going to benefit us at the end of the day. So, anyways, that's just
Right.
sounds like I'm blowing my own horn, but I think that's so important.
Yeah, actually, that is very important. And we have been there. Like, we have a lot of courses that we have already signed for, and people in our teams across the organizations keep using them, keep, up to date, using those applications, watching those videos, or finishing those courses so that they have this extra thing that they didn't knew when they joined us, right?
Right. Okay. So we're getting to the bottom of the hour. The last thing I'm just going to repeat, I have nothing to do with these, but for those of you who are looking, there are a bunch of companies out there that can definitely help you out. And again, like I mentioned, they can vet people for you, or you can go and you can just figure out, um, you can just receive the resumes yourself and go through them. I will put in one recommendation is that when you put out your job description, like Vandana was saying, be sure that it's very detailed. But also when they're responding, maybe have something in the subject. Maybe square brackets around something. Just ask them to respond with square brackets. Use a different font. Use a different color. Something so you can see that they're paying attention, and that would get rid of a lot of the fluff, the people who are just responding because they see, oh, a VA. This, all of a sudden that's attention to detail. And that can happen even in your second interview or even your third interview. But you want to make sure that that happens. But here's a few companies. So, Vetted, you can go to Upwork. They do have that service. They also have a service where you can just post. Um, you can go to ZipRecruiter. That's going to cost you a little bit of money. You can go to FreeUp at freeup.net. They have a vetted service, very good service. Multiply Me is another one that I really like. but it's the me is MII at the end. They're very good. And the other kind of go-to company for at least the Philippines is onlinejobs.ph. So, Vandana, do you have anything else to say before we close out?
No, I think that's all. That's it. We covered everything that we had, the most of it.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Vandana, for staying up and staying on. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Pleasure was all mine.
All right, everybody. So thank you for joining us today. Join us every Thursday at 1 o'clock. We usually go a half hour, 45 minutes every Thursday. The room is called eComm eComm Weekly. We always have different guests on, and we talk about relevant content for the industry, the eComm industry. So if you want more entrepreneurial rooms, go up to the left-hand corner, click on the green house, and you'll sign up for notifications for Startup Club. And I think that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we will see you next week.
Bye.